Good evening. My name is Sari McConnell, past president of BCE and current BCE Endowment Trustee. I'm here with fellow trustee Cindy Wright and executive director Angela Dubovsky. And on behalf of my fellow endowment trustees, I'd like to warmly welcome all of you to Investing in the Future of Burlingame speaker series. Tonight, we're talking about business growth and why it's so important to the future of Burlingame, and we're going to be diving into the issues at hand. We have a phenomenal panel that we've put together for you tonight, filled with Burlingame's experts on the topic, and we're going to be recording this for future viewing, which you'll be able to access later. But I assure you there's going to be a lot to learn tonight as we dive in. But before we introduce our panelists, I'd like to briefly tell you about the BC Endowment. The Burlingame Community for Education Foundation, also known as BCE, is a 501c3 organization that's been around for almost 40 years, and it provides the Burlingame School District with the financial resources that it needs to create a rich and inspiring education for the children of Burlingame. California is 38th in the nation in terms of per student state funding, and it simply isn't possible to deliver a great education without the support of funds from BCE. So each year, as you may be familiar, BCE raises in the annual campaign funds that it then grants to the school district. And then once we send that grant to the school district, we start from zero all over again every single year. By contrast, the BC Endowment Fund, which is part of BCE, was founded only 5 years ago, and it's quite different from the annual campaign in that the endowment's principal gets invested and its earnings would be able to help support the BCE grant every year. So the endowment, when added to the annual campaign effort, provides much greater financial stability in perpetuity for our schools. And if you think about what we have been experiencing over the past year, this financial stability is especially critical during a year when both our schools and our fundraising feel challenged. For example, COVID is responsible for canceling 1 gala and 2 spirit runs and has dramatically impacted our auction proceeds. So when BCE's annual campaign falls short, income from the BCE endowment would help to fill the gap. And these funds, I can't say it enough, enormously impact the quality of our schools. So tonight we're kicking off the $2 million BCE endowment campaign with this Future of Burlingame series. We are so thrilled to have you tonight and really honored that we've been able to attract such expert panelists to talk about business growth in Burlingame. And we're so grateful for every one of you who've joined us tonight. Cindy?
Thank you, Sari, and thank you, everyone. I'm Cindy Wright. I am an endowment trustee. I have 2 kids in the district, and also I'm an alum. So I am super supportive of BCE and our initiatives, and I am really excited to introduce our panelists tonight. We've handpicked them based on their expertise on the topic tonight. And we don't have time to go through their full biographies, but those are on the website, and hopefully you got them in the email announcements as well. But they really are going to bring together a wide range of perspectives on what are sort of the levers that influence the business climate in Burlingame. So with that, I will start our introductions. Our first panelist is Burlingame Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Georgette Naylor.
Hi, y'all.
And second, we have Burlingame City Manager, Lisa Goldman.
Hi, everyone.
The third panelist is Burlingame Realtor, Raziel Ungar.
Hi, everyone.
Our fourth is Traffic and Safety and Parking Commissioner and Chair, Howard Wettan.
Hi, everybody.
Our fifth panelist is San Mateo County Convention and Visitors Bureau President and CEO, John Hutar.
Good evening. Hello, everyone.
And our final panelist is Proterra Director of Channel Sales, Lisa Lillelund.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you all, and I will turn it back to Sari.
Thanks, Cindy. So let's dive right into the topic of business growth in Burlingame. We've received some great questions from all of you who've registered for our program. Let's start with Georgette Naylor, our Chamber of Commerce expert, and Lisa Goldman, our city manager. And if anybody else on the panel wants to weigh in on these questions, please do. It is a conversation tonight. So Georgette and Lisa, what is the role of the City of Burlingame and the Chamber of Commerce in helping businesses in Burlingame succeed? And how do each of you work with each other?
So I'll jump right in. Lisa and I have a great working relationship. We work really closely with the city. We have regular meetings and are constantly talking with each other about business issues. We also have, the chamber has a board meeting every month, and at that board meeting, we have 2 city council members attending, and we give each other updates, exchange ideas, and bring up concerns. I also attend city economic development meetings, and the chamber gets real-time updates on projects such as the recreation center and the post office project. We do a lot together.
Thanks, Georgette. So Georgette and I actually met on my very first day in Burlingame a little over 8 years ago, and she's been one of my go-to people ever since. And I think that speaks to the great relationship that the city and the chamber have together. We actually have a formal relationship in that we have a contract with the chamber. And so we provide about $34,000 every year to the chamber from the city's general funds, or our general taxes. And with that money, Georgette promotes businesses, offers seminars and workshops to her members, promotes the city through Burlingame on the Avenue, which is the street festival that she used to have every year in the before times, and will come back better than ever one of these days when we're not all in these little boxes on our computers. And so we've really just established this wonderful relationship, and we work really well together. And so we will, talk to businesses together. We will strategize about how to help the business community. Last year in the spring, the city went through a whole exercise of figuring out how to support some of our businesses that were really struggling right after the shutdown. And so Georgette was a sounding board through all of that, and worked with myself and with our council. We had a couple different council subcommittees that worked on it. And through all of that, we ended up giving quite a bit of money in the form of grants to businesses. We gave $10,000 grants to businesses. We paid the fees for the downtown business improvement district, which is Burlingame Avenue and surrounding street businesses, and for the Broadway business improvement district, which is our other downtown. And so all of that was a way to help a lot of our struggling businesses. The city also came up with grants to help businesses buy personal protective equipment and install plexiglass and all that kind of thing, so that when they were able to be open, their folks could be safe and people coming into the establishments could be safe. And so it's really been a great working relationship, and all in the all under the guise of helping our business community thrive, even in really difficult circumstances. And I think it's, without this partnership, we would have been a lot further back than we are now, and able to come back. We're able to come back strong because we work so well together. And just one other real quick plug. Last year, and this is also bringing in my friend John Hutar, last year, John and Georgette and I all traveled to Washington, D.C. to lobby on behalf of funding for the Broadway grade separation. And if we didn't have our business partners there with us, meeting with members of Congress, meeting with people from the White House, from Department of Transportation, various other agencies, we really would have just been, a little city of Burlingame. But with our business partners there, we were a pretty mighty team. And, we couldn't do that without great working partnerships and friendships with our business community.
I had actually no idea that the city paid for PPE,
personal protective equipment.
Yeah, too many acronyms.
So many acronyms.
Yeah, and all the plexiglass. So this kind of leads me to my next question for you, Lisa. You've got all this money to spend. I'm assuming it comes from our tax revenues. What's the relationship between business growth and Burlingame's tax revenues? And you did speak to some extent about what the city does to attract businesses and promote business growth, but I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit on that. And also like help us understand who is our business community. I'm throwing a lot at you all at once.
Okay, hopefully I'll get them all. Thanks, Terry. So again, if we go back to the before times, which are just over a year ago, the hotel industry was our largest revenue source. And so that is really different than what most cities have. In most cities, property tax, so the tax you pay for your house or businesses pay if they own their property, most cities, that is the largest source of revenue. For us, hotel tax was our largest source of revenue. And so back in the day, 36.5% of our revenue was hotel tax. That's
Holy
huge.
smokes.
More than a third of our revenue came from our hoteliers. And all, you know, we have all those wonderful airport serving hotels out on the Bayfront, and they were going gangbusters, and occupancy rates were over 80%. And the room rates that people could charge were pretty high because occupancy was so low. They were, you know, a little less occupied on the weekends, but during the week, just packed to the gills. And that was really wonderful for us. And so hotels provide a lot of revenue for us now. Unfortunately, we used to have property tax. We'd estimate about 28 million. This year, we're looking at about 7.5 million. And so hotels have really dropped off quite dramatically, and it's just really difficult for them. Another area where we get revenues to provide all the services we provide is through sales and use tax. And so every time you buy something in Burlingame, and that's why if you subscribe to our electronic newsletter, you'll see a little, you know, shop local tagline, and we work with Georgette on all of that because your sales tax dollars support your city, and they support paying for our police and fire and our recreation programs and everything else. And so, you know, back in the day, more than half of our revenues were from hotel taxes, sales taxes, and then we get property taxes from commercial entities. So, you know, all of our property taxes, not just from single family homes, a lot of it comes from the business community. The large Facebook campus out on the Bayfront brought in quite a large sum of property tax for us. So all of that is really important in keeping our budget going so we can offer all of the great services that we offer to our community. You know, there's that old saying, location, 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 and Burlingame really has this great location. And so we don't have to do, and we haven't in the past had to do a ton to attract people to our town. They wanted to come. We have great schools. We have a beautiful setting. We have a well-educated populace. We have a location right near SFO. We're right on transit lines. We're, you know, midway between San Francisco and Palo Alto, Silicon Valley. And so there was a lot to recommend Burlingame. And so, you know, we didn't have to do a lot to ask people to come here to locate their businesses. We'll see as we come out of the pandemic and things change what that looks like, and whether we need to do more attraction and less. What we had been focusing on was really retention of businesses and, you know, making sure folks had what they needed. And whether we have to switch gears and go to attraction, we'll see. Believe it or not, we do still have businesses that are coming into City Hall. Well, not coming in, virtually coming in. We're closed right now, but they are asking, you know, I have this business I want to locate in Burlingame. What's available? Retail on the Ave, there's a lot of vacancies, but they're not all actually vacant. A lot of them are undergoing tenant improvements, or they've signed letters of intent to come in. And so a lot of those vacancies will get filled.
That's
and so people still want to be here, which is really great. Even, you know, with this crazy economy we're all dealing with, we still have, you know, a pretty successful business sector. We are interested in diversification because, as you see, when we rely only on hotels and something really terrible happens and all travel stops, that's not good for us. So our auto sector is big for us. We have all those wonderful auto dealers, mostly Putnam, but also, you know, a few others. So that brings in revenue for us. We have restaurants, we have retail, you know, we have the nationals, and we have the local serving retail on Broadway. So all of that contributes to a healthy economy for us. Did I get all the parts of your question? There were so many.
You were awesome. You nailed it. Thank you so much, Lisa. They should make you city manager.
I mean, maybe someday.
John, since we're on the topic of hotels, and this is your area of expertise, tell us about the outlook for this business sector and what's being done to bring tourism back.
Well, thank you for the question. And before I jump in with the answer, I just would like to say that the organization that I represent serves countywide. but I am a Burlingame resident, so it is a special meeting to be invited here tonight, and thank you for the invitation. Burlingame, as Lisa just articulated, is very important to our Convention and Visitors Bureau, which serves the entirety of San Mateo County. We have 12 hotels in Burlingame, just
Wow.
over 3,700 rooms, and it represents over a quarter of all the hotels in the county. And our organization actually started, December will be 50 years. It started as the Burlingame Millbrae Tourism Board, and over time, over 50 years, grew to represent the entire county. When times were good, our hotels here had an occupancy premium compared to the rest of the country, and an average daily rate premium. And we were the most coveted location throughout the United States. The Bay Area was really riding the wave high. Recovery is going to be difficult, and I really hate being the bearer of bad news. The international market, which is lucrative because those stays are typically longer nights and people are willing to pay more, that will probably be the last sector to rebound. It's a long flight wherever you're coming from internationally. You're coming from overseas, that is. The rest of the world is not on the same vaccination schedule, and there's talk of a vaccine passport, and that one's not going to come back soon. We have some optimism of the corporate segment returning, perhaps the fourth quarter of this year, early into next year. The corporate campuses tend to be occupied by a younger demographic that is later in line in the vaccine rollout schedule. Companies may try to hold on to this savings, the travel budget savings. We've had some, especially those in the medical field, who say, no, we need scientists to collaborate, so that's a shining spot for us. That's a bit problematic. And the meetings sector, I went back through our notes, and the city of Burlingame was a leader. On September 22nd, the city council sent a letter to the governor urging the governor's office to add protocols and allow meetings and give a timeline when meetings could occur. And as luck would have it, the Burlingame hotels, on top of the corporate sector and international, they're very meetings and convention driven.
Right.
And unfortunately, as of today, that sector is not yet reflected in the blueprint for the economic reopening. So 6 months later, we're still at it. I gave a 30-minute talk at this past week's county supervisors meeting. They're getting behind this effort as well. So we hope to have some movement there. So that takes us to leisure. And that is a bright spot. Folks have been home for a year now. There's pent up demand. They want to travel. And San Mateo, as a whole, has a lot of outdoor spaces. And Burlingame has extraordinary amenities, both on Burlingame Avenue and on Broadway, the shopping, the restaurants. So if my slide could come up, please, Cindy. We've developed this beautiful ad that we will be showing in the Visit California Visitor Guide on their website. Visit California is the umbrella agency of tourism for California. The beach and bay and everything in between. And the text highlights all that San Mateo County has to offer and our proximity to San Francisco. And if you're coming to Northern California for a 3 or 4 day visit, Burlingame is perfect because you can spend a day downtown enjoying yourself. It's a short ride to the city. It's a short ride if you're going to Destination South. So we hope this will get traction, and that is the market that will come back first. That market that is the drive market within 200 miles, perhaps a short flight. And the photos all feature the sights and sounds and sips and tastes that our region has to offer. So we're optimistic. We can stop the slide now. Thank you, Cindy. I always like to look at the glass more full. I'm sort of running out of little water droplets the last couple of weeks, but we are excited. We're in the orange tier. We're heading towards yellow. The infection rate is improving. As I walk around here, we live close to the high school. It's so refreshing to see the student athletes back on the field.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And their sports. And there was a football game Friday evening. I believe that was the first Saturday night lights we've had in a long, long time. So we, are going to encourage Californians in the state and those in our backyard to spend their dollars at home, and we encourage Burlingame residents to do that too, whether it's for retail, for shopping, or play a weekend as a tourist.
I bet there are very few people on this call who even considered the fact that San Mateo County has an advertising campaign behind it and a tourism campaign. I think that's really, really impressive.
Well,
Georgette, I'm gonna turn.
I just wanted.
Oh yeah, please, Georgette, please.
I just want to say something to everybody. We always talk about the glass, but everybody needs to know that the glass is refillable.
That's right. That's right.
Well said.
That's right. So Georgette, since I have you, tell us more about the Burlingame Chamber of Commerce. How does it reflect the broad range of business interests in Burlingame? We have a lot of different kinds of businesses in our community.
Absolutely. Burlingame is small, but it's mighty. We're over 5.5 square miles. Our business community is very diverse, and we truly are the envy of all other cities. Everybody wants to be like Burlingame. The goal of the chamber is to reflect that diversity on our board of directors. So on our board of directors, right now we have international tech with Facebook. Our hotels are well represented with Hyatt Regency, SFO, and Embassy Suites. We have auto dealerships with Kent Putnam. We have utilities with PG&E. We have financial represented with Boston Bank. Real estate, we have AVR and Compass. Local businesses include Hutar Chocolates, All Natural Stone, American Bull Bar and Grill, New England Lobster, and Molly Stones. Again, we are so fortunate to have a diverse business community, because when something happens to one segment, like has happened to the hotels, there's another sector that can pick up the slack and make up for it. And right. We are really fortunate to have Lisa Goldman, because she has really drilled into, I think, the city council and made the point that we can't just always count on one sector for everything.
Right. Well, let's turn to our local businesses since we're on that topic. Lisa and Raziel, why have each of you, Raziel, you represent real estate, and Lisa, you are representing the electric bus future of Burlingame. Why have each of you chosen to build your business in Burlingame, or the business that you work for? And give us some insight as to what the concerns are for small and medium business owners in our town.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I'm happy to be here this evening to represent the tech industry. in Burlingame. We're both high tech and transportation industry. And first of all, just a compliment to BCE. I moved here 4 years ago from Boston because of the great public schools in Burlingame. And my son is a proud graduate of BHS. So I did want to mention that first of all. And second of all, I started 3 years ago with Proterra, and we're on Rollins Road and making electric buses and batteries that work in other vehicles. And it's the geographic location. Proterra started years ago in Colorado, then moved to Menlo Park, and then ended up in Burlingame the last 7 years. And some of the main reasons are the geographic location. The fact that it is close to, that you can walk from the BART station and the Caltrain are really key, because in order to attract the top engineering talent, battery tech talent, product managers, business development, many of the people live in San Francisco. A lot of the younger engineers, they want an easy commute. They don't want to be driving. And for the people that when they get older, we see a lot of them are living on the peninsula with the families and in Silicon Valley. So it's really a sweet spot to be able to get the top engineering talent from both San Francisco and as far as, San Jose and Santa Clara. So I think that's really key. Another thing, so the geographic location and the walkability from BART and Caltrain are important. We attracted a lot of engineering talent from Tesla is with our company. Our CTO is from there. And also we're close to the airport, which is great. So many customers fly in to visit, the board of directors, investors. Investors really from all over the world fly in to visit us, big Daimler from Germany and different people. And it's so nice to be 10 minutes away. So that's been really great. And then I think the downtown, it's so nice to be somewhere where people come to visit. There are nice hotels they can stay at. It's a joy to take people to lunch or to dinner. I think some of the concerns are we need more EV parking downtown. A lot of the people, most of us all have EVs and drive them in. And so that would be good. But the geographic location and I think the beauty of the town have been great to attract. It's really key when you're a tech company that you can get the top talent that wants to come work wherever you're located.
Raziel, did you want to chime in?
I thought that was wonderful what Lisa said. I just think that Burlingame, I grew up here, so I was very blessed to be able to have the opportunity to grow my business here. I think though, having grown up here, a lot of my friends who I went to Burlingame High School with and elementary school, and a lot of them would like to live here, and a lot of them would like to be able to start businesses or whatnot. And just due to the one challenge is obviously cost of housing and for everyone. And you look at Burlingame Avenue, and restaurants have a tough time even attracting talent just because of the cost of living. But we all know this. I think another challenge is small businesses like office space. I'm not, I'm in residential real estate, not commercial, but my understanding is that we have less, and maybe Lisa Goldman, you would know better than me, but I think like Palo Alto has, way more office space than we do in Burlingame, like per capita. And so it's just very challenging. And I think about a lot of the businesses, in downtown and on Broadway, and I think Burlingame has a very, very bright future for that. But those are concerns that I have in just attracting small business owners. But I do think like Burlingame is such a great place to live and to work that I feel like I hit the jackpot and just feel very, very lucky that my parents chose to live here before I was born.
Great. Appreciate that insight greatly. So let's take a little shift and talk about the development of Broadway. I know this topic comes up with frequency, so you're used to handling this question. What are things that the city can do to support the development of Broadway, and what can't it do to influence the health of these businesses? And, what have we done lately on Broadway?
So I'm going to assume that one's for me.
Yeah, Lisa, Howard.
Sure. So, Broadway's an interesting case. there's plenty of people who prefer Broadway to Burlingame Avenue. Burlingame Avenue is all the national retailers, right? You have, well, Gap just left, but you had Gap, you had, you know, various other large retailers on the Ave, Pottery Barn, and Madewell's in now, and people like the kind of folksy, homey, small town feel of Broadway. And so I don't think that kind of turning Broadway into a Burlingame Avenue is really what folks want. They want a thriving local neighborhood serving street, and that's really what Broadway is. And they do a great job there under the leadership of the Broadway Business Improvement District of, you know, figuring out what people want and providing that. As far as the city, you know, we work with them on, we had a facade grant improvement program. So we provided grants so people could fix up the outside of their businesses. And so, for instance, Flex Studio got a grant and they put in a new sign and did some other work, and others did other updates. And so it was kind of a beautification option. And we just did that on Broadway. We didn't do that anywhere else. If we can get the Broadway grade separation done, which hopefully, you know, it's a $300+ million project, that is not chump change. So we're all looking for money, and hopefully the feds will come through for us with a big chunk of that, and then state and regional dollars. But you know, that I think will help Broadway a lot, because right now there's so much congestion at the intersection of Broadway and California that some people just kind of go around it. You know, I don't want to get stuck in that because it's just so crazy right there. So getting that grade separation and having the traffic move better, and making it easier for people to bike and walk in that area, which will happen with grade separation, I think all of that will be really helpful for Broadway. We provided a lot of grants to Broadway businesses through our the grant, we called it the Restarting Business Assistance Program, which provided the money for PPE. So a number of Broadway businesses took advantage of that. Other Broadway businesses got some of the $10,000 grants that we gave out early on in the pandemic. We did that in concert with the San Mateo County Strong Fund. And so there's a lot of money that the city has put towards Broadway. We also paid their business improvement district assessments, so that normally the businesses pay an assessment every year. We collect it and then turn it over to the Broadway Business Improvement District, and we do the same thing on Burlingame Avenue. And they use that for marketing and various other things. So we paid that in this past year so that the businesses wouldn't have to shell out those dollars. We also put money towards better light displays at the holidays. So that didn't happen this year because nothing happened this past year, but in winter of 2019, they had a beautiful lighting display on Broadway. And that was, you know, we did a 50-50 split on that. So we, you know, gave money towards Broadway and also the Burlingame Avenue area so that people could really beautify during the downtown, during the holiday time, and make it more festive. We also have a project where we're going to be installing some prettier streetlights in the area. So there's some nice lighting on the bridge that goes up and over the freeway, and we're going to be extending that down onto the commercial part of Broadway. That was a big federal project, and so we're jumping through hoop after hoop after hoop, but it will happen, and it'll, I think, really be a nice touch once those lights go in.
Howard, do you want to speak to traffic that Lisa mentioned? And I know there have been some changes in parking.
Yeah, there were, some of you are aware there was a change in parking where we moved certain meters to 2 hours, and that's a bit of an experiment. I think we had some people complaining that they, you know, if they wanted to go to a restaurant or a hair appointment or a nail appointment, they needed more than an hour. I think that the trouble with Broadway, so the Traffic Commission spends a lot of time looking at Broadway. And the trouble we have right now, and we've studied the parking patterns, we've studied when parking is constrained, and I'm not an expert in running a business, but I know that part of it, especially for all the businesses on Broadway, is making sure people can get in and out. So we take extra care to look at that and see when parking is constrained. And the trouble we have now is we have these twin uncertainties. One is, what are the secular changes that are going to happen post-COVID? So we spent a lot of time studying parking patterns and when it was constrained before COVID. And we don't know if it's the same after COVID. People may be home more during the week. So we may have more traffic in some ways because we have residents who aren't leaving town every day. They're around
Right.
more often. You have people eating more takeout. And we don't know how that'll impact the parking and traffic patterns there. So that's a big uncertainty of what does the world look like coming out of COVID. And then the second uncertainty Lisa just touched on, which is we have this gargantuan project that's coming, and we hope it's a when and not an if, but we don't know exactly when. So these are these two big uncertainties hanging over things, and that doesn't. I never want to let that stop us from doing everything we can to improve conditions. And Lisa mentioned the lighting and the garbage cans, the meters, which is no small thing.
Right, sure.
But getting all the meters digital and taking cards, I know I think
I love
for the
it.
first time I've gotten to a meter and realized that I don't really just carry much change anymore, and I'm stuck. And that actually happened to me as recently as this year, where I couldn't stay because I literally couldn't get anyone to give me change. Now all fit, the meters are all now digitized and using cards.
Yeah.
So we can fix those small problems, but and I know that we are getting some new businesses in there, new restaurants, which is great to see. I live near Broadway. I love being there. I love the local feel, but it's difficult with the big uncertainties coming to plan accordingly. And the traffic commission, really, we do our best to be as data driven as possible, but we're dealing in conditions where all the data that we've gathered is of limited value because we just don't know what the world's going to look like when this is all over.
I bet a lot of people on this call are surprised at how much time is actually spent analyzing all of this information, that these decisions are made quite deliberately, factoring in a lot of different variables, obviously a lot of moving parts right now. Since I have you, Howard, outdoor dining opportunities have overtaken parking spots all throughout town. Are there plans, do you know, to allow these temporary dining areas to stay? And what's the impact on parking?
I'll tell you what I know, and Lisa may update me, but as from what I understand, in order to make the parklets work, we made a commitment to the restaurants that they could keep them through, I believe, September. So for now, I think the expectation is they'll be there till September. I don't know if there's been any decision or thought to what happens after that. I mean, I think we're all hoping that September will be mostly post-COVID, that those of us, that we'll all have shots in our arms, those of us who can get it, and we'll be trying to move back to normal life. And I will say at a high level, at least for Broadway, in the evening, in normal times, particularly Thursdays and Fridays, parking is really constrained. And often there's a lot of people in Burlingame who don't realize how constrained parking can be in Broadway in the evenings because they may not be driving to dinner there. But we did find that when we studied it pre-COVID, that Thursday nights, Friday nights, you're going to dinner on Broadway, unless you're willing to park really all the way towards one end, it can be kind of tricky. So if we do return to normal conditions, I don't think we really can. And this is all me only speaking for myself as a resident, someone who knows Broadway reasonably well. I don't think we would have all those spaces to spare. I do know that everyone loves the outdoor dining. And I have to say, when they closed Broadway, I was surprised how much I liked it and how safe it felt and what a nice experience it was. So maybe we can try, I'm sure there'll be some interest in retaining it to some degree, but we're going to have to balance our needs once parking demand returns to something approximating normal.
Lisa Goldman, do you have a 30-second opinion to add to this?
I do, thanks. So we have made a commitment through Labor Day. We're going to revisit it with the council in advance of Labor Day, and whether they want to extend the outdoor dining. I suspect they will, because it is really popular. At some point when things are much better, if people want to have the parklets, we will probably charge them for the parklets because they are taking up parking spaces that we would normally get revenue from. And then just in terms of parking supply, over on the Avenue, we have a parking garage that is opening probably next month. And that is going to provide hundreds of parking spaces. It's just south of Howard. It's, block off the avenue, a block and a little tiny bit off the avenue, hundreds and hundreds of parking spaces. And so if anybody complains that there is no parking on Burlingame Avenue, they need to just learn to walk a little bit, because it's really
Right.
close and it's going to be available and it's going to be wonderful. And there'll be a ton of EV charging spaces there as well, Lisa. So you're all good.
Your timing couldn't be better on that one. Raziel, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the impact of the pandemic on Burlingame's residential real estate. What do you think the projections are for the next 3 years?
The Burlingame real estate has never been hotter than ever, and it's always been amazing to me how much like cheaper Burlingame is than Palo Alto or Atherton or Menlo Park, and I think we're going to start to see that gap decrease with the arrival of Facebook's campus. But just to share some quick data, last year in Burlingame we had 199 sales. That's about 16 a month, and we haven't in the last 10 years. The most number of sales we've ever had is 250, but we've stayed under 200 the last 6 or so years. So when I think about it in the economy, and we have our 4 main drivers of the economy are locally, at least for job growth, like biotech, healthcare, finance, and high tech. It's not just high tech, you know, it's very diverse. And I feel like we keep attracting the best and brightest from around the world. I mean, I had a call this morning with some new clients who are looking, you know, up to $4 million to buy a home in Burlingame, and grew up overseas and had PhD from Stanford, and they want to live here, and they've not yet been to Burlingame Avenue, but just from what they've read online. And they live
Wow.
locally and worked at Facebook for 7 years. And, you know, the profile of the buyers is very, very fascinating. And so Burlingame price per square foot average is about, last year was $1,225. Interestingly, more than Hillsborough, which was $1,213 a square foot. About 2 years ago, Burlingame surpassed Hillsborough average price per square foot. Atherton last year was $1,700 a square foot, and Palo Alto was $1,600 a square foot. So I think we have a lot of room. Like everything sure corrects itself. Remember when I started in real estate, my mentor said California real estate is like a one-way train. She's like, it goes up a little and a lot, and then it goes down a little. Then it goes up and then it goes down a little. And it basically just keeps moving in this direction. And so if you look back at the last 30 years in Burlingame, we've seen 7% appreciation on average every year. When I think about the last dip that we had, 2008 to 2010, some places like Sacramento, Vegas, they went down 50 to 70%. San Mateo County dropped on average 26%, and Burlingame dropped only 13%. And that was pretty bad. So I think about like, will we have a correction next year's? Yes. Will it be major? I don't think so. And when I go back to that stat I shared earlier about 16 sales per month in Burlingame, all it takes for the market to appreciate a little bit in Burlingame is like more buyers entering the market and more people getting liquidity. So a lot of us know people at these different companies where there's an IPO every several months. And right now we're seeing Airbnb. I had some clients I was working with whose budget was up to 2 million. The Airbnb IPO happened and their budget increased to almost 4 million. And so people are able to pull equity out from their companies. And having grown up in Burlingame and seeing what it's become, it's, you know, I have mixed feelings, but I'm very bullish because we're attracting the best and brightest from around the world, as Lisa said with her company at Proterra. I just feel very grateful for that. And when the Facebook campus opens, I believe that'll be Lisa Goldman, 5,000 jobs or so, something like that. And I think 4,000 will be, you know, Facebook employees, and then a lot of support. And these are not $75,000 a year, you know, jobs. I mean, these are all very high level. And if just two people, like two families who work at this campus decide to enter the housing market per month in Burlingame, that's totally realistic. Like that just moves the market up. And so I just feel very, you know, bullish from that perspective. Last year, we had the lowest days on market in many years, only 15 days on average to sell a house. Like in the rest of the country, people are like just getting the ball rolling after 15 days. And here we're closing, you know, transactions, you know, in 3 to 4 weeks. And I've had several transactions recently where people paid $500,000 to $1 million over asking for properties. And sure, we all know it's a game. We all know that there's multiple offers, but still when things are selling that high over asking, like it's still, I feel pretty material. So that is kind of my real estate thought.
fascinating. Do you have an opinion on commercial real estate? I know that's not your wheelhouse.
Not my
but-
expertise, so I defer to maybe others on the call. I know that, we've created, I think, something like 75,000 jobs in the last 5 years. I remember hearing at one point, but like 4,000 new housing units, and I might be off to some degree, but I think the meaning is there. And so I think commercial, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but I do know that rents are down, but I'll pause there because that's only my knowledge.
Georgette, you wanted to weigh in?
So Raziel, I mean, it's really interesting that the residential market is so very hot, and the rental market is just so distressed right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
For rentals, for
Yeah.
residential rentals?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not aware of the residential market being too distressed, but that just might be because some of the price points that I see. I do think I saw a condo at Woodlake that was just rented for 20% less than what it was 12 months ago, but those are condos and they're a little bit less desirable. But I think single family homes overall are still pretty sought after. I think people, at least now, I don't know post-COVID, but right now people want a nice house with a nice yard and space. And thankfully, Burlingame, has supported the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit. And I think we're going to see a lot of those pop up in the next few years, and that could create more housing for more people at the minimum.
So it seems like the multi-family units are the ones that are distressed more than the.
Perhaps. Yeah, that would make sense, Georgette.
Yeah, because I know from ADR Realty and Tim RN and some other realtors that we have on our board that they're having problem with their property management rentals.
Interesting perspective. Georgette, let's talk a little bit more about the Chamber of Commerce. Commerce is in your name. I'd love to get more insight about what the Chamber does on behalf of its business and how you think about what you do on behalf of all business Burlingame residents with respect to improving the quality of life for everybody. How do you balance all of that out?
Well, primarily we're business advocacy, and the Chamber is membership driven. But we do a lot for residents too, and the quality of life. We bring you the fresh market every Sunday, which is
That's terrific.
Yeah, a favorite in Burlingame. And at the market, we have the city participating right now, and they're giving information out on district elections, and they have in the past, had booths about conservation and the new rec department, and so it's an opportunity for the residents to go out there and just hear firsthand from the city, and also. It's a hard time now. We didn't have Burlingame on the Avenue last year. If it happens at all, it will not be even close to the format that it was.
Right.
But that was an opportunity too for police and fire and the parks and recs to be out there and to interact with the residents. So everything's a little bit different now, but I will tell you that the farmers market has thrived with the pandemic because we were deemed an essential business, and it was one of the ways that people at least had something near to normal to do. Although in the beginning it was a real struggle because of the hoops we had to go through and mark the streets and 6 feet apart and everybody wearing masks, and it was a very interesting time, to say the least.
And do you ever have situation where you are having to weigh the communities and residents' quality of life against the interests of the business, or are they always aligned?
I think the interesting part of it all is a lot of the business people, they don't live in Burlingame. so it's a great place to work. But a lot of the business owners, business people, they don't live here, but they still support I think they support our schools well. They get it that everybody being involved in community is good for everybody. So I think it's kind of synergistic of what goes on and how it interacts. I don't think it's a competition.
And is there anything else that you wanted to add about the value of Chamber of Commerce in our community that folks like me may not know?
You know, there's an old saying, when nobody knows who's doing it, the chamber's doing it. So we always are in the background, and we're always, for me especially too, I've been here a long time, it's about building relationships.
Yeah.
And it's working with everybody. We know pretty much everything that's going on, and we work with everybody the best we can. We're a very small organization. We're also a nonprofit, but we have the relationships, and people come to us for input. And what can I say? You know, we're here to serve everybody. If anybody wants to know more about the chamber, I'm happy to meet with them too, and to go over exactly what we do and the benefits of belonging to the chamber, because now is a difficult time for us too.
Yeah.
And Sari, can I jump in here? I
Absolutely.
managed hotels in a prior life, and whatever city I was in, you get engaged with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, that city's Chamber of Commerce. Burlingame is the only place ever, and I've lived in the Midwest, the West Coast, where it is standing order for council members to attend the regular Chamber of Commerce meetings and engage with the business community. And it is such a beautiful experience that happens, and it is just the normal protocol. So the business community can communicate very freely, very openly, and actions can be quick. And I just think it's lovely and very unique to Burlingame. So
thanks so much for that, John, because we think it's a big deal too. And when we tell people that we have city council members at our meetings, they are like astounded. So it works well. There's a great exchange at the meetings. And again, thank you for that, because
well, and very often a Chamber of Commerce would be opposing city policy, and here things are very lockstep, joined together. So
yeah, you've given me a great segue. It really is relationships across our community that makes our community great, and we're all invested in each other's success. So on that note, I'd like to thank all of you, my panelists, for being here tonight, and our audience. I hope that you found this discussion stimulating and informative. I know that I learned something new tonight. We have another program, a Future of Burlingame program, coming up on May 19th on Burlingame's quality of life, that you can register soon on our website, bceendowment.org. And you can also go to that website, bcendowment.org, and become a Founders Circle member. Or of course, you can text to give tonight by texting Endow BCE at 91999. If you believe in Burlingame, if you believe in the value of Burlingame's great public schools, investing in the BC Endowment is a wonderful way to sustain the Burlingame community for generations to come. And I'm very proud to say that we have raised more than $300,000 in donations and pledges since the inception of our campaign. But we really need everybody's help to get to our $2 million endowment goal. And the faster we get there, the faster the income from that principal will go to support our schools immediately. Thank you to all of the organizations who've joined us tonight. Georgette, Naylor, Lisa Goldman, Lisa Lillelund, Howard Wettan, Raziel Ungar, John Hutar, and I have a slide here just showing you all of the organizations that they represent. And I do want to make a special plug to the Burlingame Community Center that is under construction. I know that they have a fundraising campaign that is also underway. I wanted to put in a special plug for them. They're doing amazing things for our community too. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for joining us tonight. And I hope we all see you on May 19th for our next session. Good night.
Right.
Good night.